People keep asking, where are you going to store all of your stuff in the van? Because it's really tiny. This is part of the answer to that question. So I made this the other day and I took zero video of the making, but it's just a simple box, really. I got a bunch of apple wood kind of stringers here, and on the outside as well. And then it's just some plywood, half-inch plywood holds it all together. This box is actually going to sit like this. I'm helping your imagination. So the water tank on the passenger side of the van will be here, and the water tank on the driver's side will be here, and the rear doors are right here. So we'll be able to open up the rear doors, and then this space will be a drawer. I got two of these drawer slides that are almost the full length of the box, but we'll be able to reach in the last 6 inches and grab whatever is there. It'll be underneath this, but it's not a big deal. And these lock in, so you have to flip the little lever to lock the drawer so it won't be sliding all around when we're driving. So it gives us a lot of space. It's like 3 feet wide, and I think it's about 10 inches tall or 9 inches tall on the inside, and it's a little over 4 feet deep this way. So right now I have these pieces cut, I'm barefoot, for the drawer that I think they're not quite all down to size. I gotta cut this one and I gotta cut that one, and I'm gonna make some structural kind of pieces out of these guys, just some ribs that will strengthen the bottom floor of the drawer, because I think those drawer slides are capable of holding like 150 pounds or something like that, and I don't think that this big sheet of half-inch plywood can necessarily handle that well. I think it would be okay, but it would probably bow. So I'm going to make some ribs. I'm going to cut these down to size, and then make sure it all goes together. And then I'm going to take it all apart. I'm going to take that all apart, and I'm going to sand everything nice and smooth, get a coat of polyurethane on there so that it should be pretty waterproof in case we have to open this drawer while it's raining outside. I forgot to mention something. The reason that the ribs in this guy might look a little beefy, they're 1.5 inch apple wood, 1 inch wide, and these screws are the spacing for them. The reason that it might seem overbuilt is because we need to be able to walk on this, because this is going to be our dining area. So with nothing underneath there, and it's not secure to the floor, I can walk around up here and it's totally fine. So that's pretty much it. It's not really it at all, but those are all of the pieces cut to size. Now I gotta work on fastening them all. So we've got a trunk in our van. So it's finished with polyurethane on all the surfaces, if you can see in there. Installing this thing was kind of a nightmare because I meant to put a screw hole on this side to put it into the floor, but I put it on this side. So as you can see, this wall panel covers it. So I had to basically completely disassemble this whole thing, take this top off, take the sides off in order to screw it to the floor, and then reassemble it. It was a whole big thing. So that's why I didn't record the installation, because I'm an idiot. But now we've got all this storage space. When the door's shut, this is one thing that I'm not super crazy about, is this gap here, which stuff can possibly fall into. I think we'll just have to be careful about stuff not falling down here, or be aware if something does fall down that when the door opens, it's probably going to fall out. It's not a big deal. And then this is our floor now. So I got to build up off of this to make a bench in this space, a little seating area. And there's going to be a table and a bench on this side. I had to get this installed in order to build the bench. So I'm going to start working that now. And don't know exactly how it's going to go, so I got to do some thinking. So at this point, I'm trying to conceptualize how to even build the wings for the sides of the mattress that need to fill this space. And I've got this really beefy, this is like 3/16 steel support here that I'm just going to build off of this. I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for how stable or unstable this might be if I were to build a wing that comes out to the flare and is only attached to the bottom face. There is a bit of deflection. It's twisting this bed support. You probably can't see it on the camera, it's very slight. This is only about 8 or 9 inches of 1/2-inch plywood sticking out here, so that might be okay. And then I need to build up some height as well, because, well, we need to at least be as thick as this bumper plus the thickness of the bed frame that's above me. That has a 7-inch thick mattress pad on top of it. Well, it doesn't yet, but it will. We need a mattress pad out here, but it will be a custom order, so we can kind of get any thickness we want. So we could build an additional 4 inches of frame and only put a 3-inch mattress pad on it, or any combination thereof. Our heads will be out here and our feet will be out here, so it's not as important to have as much thickness, because it's not really going to be supporting as much weight. Plus, under our heads we'll have our pillows. So I think if we have like a 4-inch mattress in this space, and we have an additional 3 inches of frame, then that will be fine. It's basically gonna come up to the window, which is okay because this doesn't leak anymore. Finally. How do we want to build that height? Maybe it's worthwhile to just buy a piece of 2x8. So we'll have a 2x8 running across this way, and the end grain's here. I don't want to screw into the end grain of the 2x4, so maybe I need a little bracket. If I can attach up here to the top of this rail, or maybe even up here, I'll have even more strength. The main concern, I think, which is probably not a huge issue because of how high up this is going to be, is if Loki kind of stands or lays out here, which he does tend to like to lay at our feet. So I would like to make it so that it's strong enough for him to do that. Like, I'm not going to be standing out here because I wouldn't have nearly enough room to do that. So that's not an issue, but I'd like to be able to get at least, 100 pounds out here for dog. This is my sketch. So I started looking at this in this area, right? This is what I was looking at in the van. Here's the wall. This is my constraint. And then the flare, the bottom of the flare opening is somewhere around here, and then this is the van wall down here. I've got the window labeled there. The mattress is here. This is some sort of support structure. I'm thinking it might be like a vertical 2x8. I don't know yet. And then I'm thinking 1/2-inch plywood piece underneath the bottom of the bed support, which is here. And then I was like, well, I really need to consider how I'm going to secure the bench as well at the same time, so that I do this right, because it's going to attach to this. So I'm thinking maybe There's a structural piece of metal here to reinforce this joint in this area, and then here as well. The blue in general is metal, the brown is wood, the red is hardware. I usually just put like a line to remember or kind of think about which way the bolts or nuts or screws or whatever are gonna go. Because we want to make sure that we're not going into the edge of plywood or the end grain of board, because it's not very strong that way. So then I started looking at, how I drew this is probably not to scale, but this space might be rather small, so I might want to just block it off. It may not be worth having that space accessible, but I need to get dimensions on here so that I can figure that out. This is our water tank here, so we're sitting like above the water tank but not on it. But I don't know where this point is relative to this box, and this is our storage drawer here, and this is my need to buy list. This is not India Pale Ale, it's isopropyl alcohol. But I'm not opposed to a good IPA. What we're thinking about is having a hinge here so that the seat back can open this way, probably, or maybe the other way and it hinges this way. If it folds forward, if it folds down, I guess, the hinge is on the bottom, then we can just let gravity do the work of holding it open. Part of the reason that I was thinking about making this a dead space is because what does this joint look like if this also hinges? It starts to get a little funky because you lose some structure if the seat base is just resting here and not actually secured there. If it's hinged here and opens this way, then you need to have a gap here so that both panels can move past each other. I didn't work in boat design, so I'm not really good at this, but I have been looking at our friends' boats and such to get ideas for how this stuff works, because this sort of configuration with the seats flipping open is really common on small boats anyways. I don't know about big ones because our friends aren't that rich. I need to kind of fill this in with dimensions, and I need to start with what does the angle of the bench look like. I measured some lounging type chairs that we have, and what I came up with for targets, these are all kind of approximate. Here's a chair. This height wants to be about 16 inches. The depth, it wants to be about 18. The seat back height I just got from basically where my back touches the seat back as I kind of sit in it like this with my terrible posture. So those are approximate targets. I don't think that it will make a huge difference if we go a few inches one way or the other. And then I also learned that this angle above horizontal is about 8 to 10 degrees. And then this angle behind vertical is somewhere around 20 degrees. So what do I do with all that? I made this, a bunch of 2x4s all clamped together in a zigzag. Right now I'm gonna screw all these together, and I'm gonna make a duplicate so we have 2 zigzags, and I'm gonna bridge the gap between them with some scrap plywood that I have, and I'm gonna try and sit on it and see how it feels. So then I can decide if I wanna move forward with that or if I wanna make adjustments. I'm in my bench. You can't see it, but this is what it looks like. It is ugly as sin, but it's the dimensions that I'm shooting for, and the piece of PEX is where the bed rail will be approximately. And I think that's my least favorite part of this. The rest of it's pretty comfortable, all things considered. I can look at it and maybe play around with making the leg a little bit shorter and making the back a little bit taller. When you make the legs shorter, your knees come up higher because this dimension from your foot to your knee is fixed. I can't just go around like chopping people's legs off, least of all my own. It's not too bad, and honestly, if you're sitting upright, like working at the table, there's going to be a table right here. It would be totally fine. It's like when you want to sort of lean back and relax a little bit, I think the bed rail will dig in, but I was also thinking we could just throw a pillow right there and the problem would be solved. I think I'm going to start trying to make all this work together, and I realized that this is actually a pretty big space, so we should try to figure out how to use this. So we started here with trying to figure out the bed lift, or the bed wings sort of situation, this piece of mattress here. And now we're all the way down here. But all this has to work together. And I think this is going to be the easy part. This is my biggest challenge. So I want to do this first. Because once the hard part's over, then it's all easy from there. To help you guys kind of put this into context, I popped the bench in here in the van. So this is where it will sit. It's going to be wider than this though. I'm thinking it'll come all the way pretty much to the door. So now I gotta start sorting specifics. Also, big shout out to Mandy, because I thought that we were gonna have a really narrow aisle here because we're gonna do another bench that's the same over here, and that only left us with like 8 inches of aisle in the middle, which is not even enough for my foot to exist. But she pointed out that this can move back by the width of the 2x4, and that gets us like 3.5 inches here and 3.5 inches there. Plenty of room for feet here. Thanks.